Another car that we usually don't get to test back in Germany are Toyota cars. So we thought we'd take the opportunity here in Detroit at the auto show to stop by a Toyota stall and see what they have cooking. And well, this is what we found. This is the next generation Toyota Avalon. This is their flagship model. It's even higher than the Camry. And I think this is kind of the bridge between Toyota and Lexus. In fact, at first glance, this looked like a Lexus to me, with its angry ninja samurai, typical Japanese Toyota Lexus design philosophy. But there's a lot more to this car than just that. Stick around and let's find out what it's all about. The new Avalon takes a lot of design influences from Lexus and the previous or the current generation Camry. A lot of interesting shapes and contours happening over here. Now this is the entry-level version and this gets LED lights, but as you go higher in the trims you get some more advanced LED, adaptive LEDs and dynamic indicator lights and such in the other car. We'll show you that later on. There's some side vents which are functional, that's what they say over here, which helps make the car a lot more aerodynamic. As it is always with these upgrades and next generation cars, the new Avalon is now wider and longer than before. This is certainly a large car. I mean, it looks well proportioned, but it is very long. Standing here, I can't even see the rear of the car. But at least the wheels are really nice. These are 19-inch wheels. It's got a shiny outside and glossy black on the inside of the spokes. The body on the side is very sleek. Not many sharp design lines. There's very subtle curvature over here. Some interesting detailing down here, which is apparently new for this generation of the Avalon, which was not there earlier. So they're trying to spice things up a little bit. A blacked out rear view mirror for this trim level. Chrome along the edges of the windows. A very long, straight roof line. Not really much of a coupe, more sedan-like. But down here, I think it has a really nice fastback type design, you know, and I think it's executed really well. You still have a lot of headroom because the roof is still pretty high at this level, but it does taper off as you go further back, adding that extra sporty feel. As we go towards the rear of the car, you will notice that there's also a spoiler over here. Glossy and black, kind of reminds me of the Alfa Romeo Giulia Quadrifoglio because it's got that glossy back feel to it. I think the rear of this car is my favorite. I know looks are subjective, but I see little bits of the Toyota Prius towards this side. If you look at it from this kind of an angle, the sloping, sculpted design of the rear view, the rear lights, kind of makes it look like a Prius, but overall it's very Toyota, very Japanese. It has its own taste. Yes, it's not really that easy to manufacture these things, that you're losing a lot of space in the trunk with all these cutouts, but it just looks really nice. I also really like the tail lamp just extending all across the back of the boot lid. Speaking of the boot lid, there's a little button here between the O and N. Avalon. I don't like this though. I wish they just had a small badge somewhere on the side, but the boot is really large. This is a full-size sedan. Really cavernous. Goes really far back. You have tabs on the top to pull and lower the seats on either side. Lots of space to tie down your bags and groceries and things like that. A toolkit, and I see a spare wheel below this. Let me try to lift it. There we go. It's a space saver without alloy wheels, but that's fine. We have 3 different trim levels here at this stall. On the right-hand side, the blue one that we were just walking around is the XSE. You can see the quad tailpipes in the bottom. Looks really nice. Over here you have the Touring, which also has these quad tailpipes. That's because this is the 3.5 liter V6. But over here on the left-hand side, we have the limited and trim in the hybrid engine, and hence there are no tailpipes down here. Let's take a look under the hood. Now this is the new V6 that we talked about earlier. We don't know the engine output yet, but this is a transversely mounted engine layout. It's offset towards the left-hand side, as you can see. Hence, this is also a front wheel only. This is mated to a 8-speed automatic transmission. But apart from the new V6, I think this is the most important engine for the Avalon. This is the 2.5-liter 4-cylinder hybrid engine. This engine is mated to a continuously variable transmission, the CVT. Again, as you can see, this is transversely mounted and it's offset towards the left-hand side. Hence, this is also a front-wheel drive layout. Let's take a look inside the car. Fairly large door, fairly low as well. Because of this new platform, the car is lower than before. Materials up here are pretty good. They're a little bit soft, but not so much. You have some perforated Alcantara type material over here. Plastics down here are hard. An interesting textured element on the top over here. So quite a lot of different design elements going on. Inside, I think it's a very clean design, but it's nothing too extravagant, I would say. The dashboard is neatly laid out in a very rectangular fashion. The seats also look fairly wide and comfortable, with plenty of adjustment over here, as well as adjustment for the steering column. And anyway, let's hop inside. Getting inside is pretty easy, even though it's a pretty low car, thanks to the sheer size. It's pretty easy to get inside. Let me get into my driving position over here. Yeah, that's about it. Steering wheel is pretty nice. It's quite thin. It's not a very hefty grip. It's pretty thin, but you have perforated sides and a circular bottom. Lots of controls for your navigation in the menus, audio controls, skipping the tracks, and also controls for your assistance systems, lane keeping assist, adaptive cruise control, things like that. I can't really turn on. There's no key, unfortunately, so I can't show it to you, but this has analog dials and an LCD screen in the middle. The vent on this left-hand side is really angled straight towards the steering wheel. I can imagine that maybe this could be a problem. Maybe it's just blowing air into your hands, which is useful if you want to cool or dry your hands, but I would maybe like it to be a little bit more straight. And this car also has the optional Jbl Audio Systems. I apologize, this is not optional. This is standard, I think, on this XSE trim. That's what I've understood. Pretty much everything you see in this car is standard equipment. That's one of the important things that Toyota has tried, that with this entry-level Avalon, the XSE, you already get a lot of kit. This is something that I don't usually see. A very large infotainment screen. Again, I cannot turn it on right now. But this entire piano black console is split in the middle by these air vents. I don't personally mind. I know that a lot of people might not really like this, but, well, that's how it is. You have controls for your seat heaters and buttons to go up and down your temperature for the climate zones. No knobs in this case, but at least there are still buttons and at least 2 knobs for your infotainment. Now this section over here I think is a bit hit and miss. I mean, it's really hard to access this cubby hole from the driver's seat. I mean, you can get it from this side, but your gear lever is in the way and you can't really reach it from this side. And you can move this aside and you have a deeper pocket. All in all, I think this is a bit too difficult to reach, and it's a bit dark to, maybe if you have multiple smaller items, to find which one it is. I can imagine it's a bit tricky, and I don't know if it's just because of this being a test car, but this mechanism is already starting to fail. But I'm going to give it the benefit of the doubt and say that's because this is a pre-production prototype of sort. The material here also, unfortunately, is pretty hard and tacky. This is not the soft material that we saw on the door. Materials here are definitely much better, but the glove box is not that bad actually. It's okay. The opening is fairly narrow though. We have the gear lever over here, some driving modes, Eco, Normal, Sport, a couple beverage holders, and a button which doesn't really lift the center armrest, a large cubby hole with USB sockets galore, and this is a fairly usable space. Alright, now let's take a look in the back seat of the new Toyota Avalon. This being a large car, the door is also fairly large in the back. The materials up here are okay, they're pretty soft but not incredibly plush. We also have the JBL sound in the back. Materials over here are nice, plush armrest as well. Plastics, as usual, down here are hard. Nice emblem on the floor. And let's step inside. Well, it is a bit low, so you have to kind of stoop down to get inside, but once you're in, it's a really nice place to be. The headroom is okay. I have about that much of headroom. I'm 5'8" or 1.7 meters, and this seat is set to my driving position, more or less. So plenty of knee room, and I can even slide my feet under the front seat. There is a center armrest as well. I'll show you that in a minute. And the transmission tunnel is not that bad, so you can keep your feet on either side, and if you sit in the middle, well, it's not that bad. It's pretty comfortable. The bench is fairly flat, but the backrest is a bit stiff because of the armrest and cup holders in the armrest. So while it's wide enough to really accommodate 3 passengers in the back, if you really do fit 3 passengers, it'll be at a pinch. On the plus side, we have air conditioning vents with a vent on-off roller over here. But something I do see missing from this trim level at least is a third climate zone. I'm pretty sure it's an option, or you can upgrade them in the other trim levels. You have 2 USB slots as well. ISOFIX points for child seats on the outside too. And a armrest, which I really don't know why there is no tab or handle to pull this out. I mean, it's a bit tricky to get it out. I mean, this is an oversight. I hope they address this. There should be some tab or some kind of a hoop for me to put my arm through to pull this down. But at least here now we have a cup holders and a place to put your phone. The armrest is a bit wobbly though, and it rests on the seat, so I think this is a bit of a hit and miss. I hope they address this later on. But overall, the back seat is a good place to be. I'm here with Randy. He's the chief engineer at Toyota, and he's going to be taking us through the all-new Toyota Avalon, because to be honest, I really don't know too much about this car. We don't really get this in Germany or in Europe, and I've never driven an Avalon before. So Randy, what is special about this car? I know it's the flagship, but why is Toyota going to the pains of making such an extravagant car?
Well, one of the things is we need a premium mid-size sedan for the American market. Not everybody wants a luxury brand. Not everybody wants that cachet or that expense. So this gives us a chance to have a sedan that has enough room for 4 adults comfortably. So it's important, the size is important in the United States to get that size right. As well as from a flagship standpoint, we're trying to add the new technology to push the brand forward, but not to complicate things, to try to make things more comfortable for the customers. So this car has an all-new platform, so we were able to start from scratch on the suspension, on the engines, from all the technology. So we added adaptive suspension, which is the first time for a Toyota vehicle. Very common in Europe, but first time for a Toyota vehicle in the US. So it adapts 650 times a second. So that type of thing is really unique from a feel for Avalon. Gives us a sporting feel. Many of the vehicles we benchmark are European, like the Audi A6, A7, BMW Grand Coupe, those type of things. So it really gives us that, as well as we're able to add technology that we feel is innovative and functional, like the headlamps. The headlamps have adaptive cornering, so they have a LED down here that's 60% power of the low beam that spreads light out to give you a comfortable beam when you're cornering. So it's not like the swivel headlamps, but it just sort of gives you a bigger beam. So that type of thing, that kind of technology we want to add. It's functional, it's innovative. This is also the first Toyota vehicle that's 100% connected to the web, to our servers. So we get in-car standard Wi-Fi, standard Safety Connect, standard Apple CarPlay, Amazon Alexa. So you get integrated commands from your home to your car, shopping list, play music, turn on your lights, whatever you want to do. Now you can just talk to your car. So those kind of things are a really big change for Toyota and an even bigger change for Avalon, because this was typically a little bit of a comfortable kind of, we're not adding the latest technology, but now we're having a chance to do that.
Well, that's really interesting. Even in Europe, I don't see too many cars with Alexa being integrated, so you're already, I would say, one step ahead of the competition that way. And another thing about Toyota, which we all know, is you guys are very successful in your hybrid powertrains. Of course, the Prius is world-renowned for its sales figures. It's one of the most successful hybrids. So I understand that there's of course, you have a 3.5-liter V6 with an 8-speed automatic transmission, but you also have your 2.5 four-cylinder petrol engine with your CVT and a hybrid powertrain. So maybe you can tell us a little bit about these?
Yeah, sure. It's nice because with the Avalon you can get either powertrain, and when you move to the hybrid, you're really just changing powertrain. Nothing else changes. So it's a very smooth, comfortable transition. One of the things in the U.S. that people like hybrids for, not only fuel economy, but range. So with the hybrid system, you can have a range of about 670 miles. So for our standpoint, you can drive for many hours and not have to refuel. People love that. From a fuel economy standpoint, the current model is 40 miles per gallon. We haven't released the figures on this, but it's a significant improvement, as well as more torque and more horsepower. So we've actually introduced a hybrid sport model because of the torque feeling. It's so fun with paddle shifters and kind of the whole sport suite of features. It's really a new frontier for us. These cars are really fun to drive. So this new hybrid system that debuted on the Camry earlier last year really is a transformation to how these things drive.
So another thing that you've been mentioning and repeating is that the Avalon is now a lot more sporty thanks to the new platform and the suspension, which is now adaptive, but it's still a front-wheel drive layout. And of course, you can have a sporty car with front-wheel drive layout, we know that, but for such a large car, are you guys considering maybe moving it to rear-wheel drive like a lot of the Lexus cars, or maybe having a four-wheel drive system in the future?
Well, we're definitely considering all-wheel drive. I think that's important for our dealers and our customers. But one of the things we really wanted to do is make the driving dynamics of a front-wheel drive car more neutral, like all-wheel drive or like rear-wheel drive. So the rear suspension was a critical part of that. This is a brand new rear suspension from the ground up, full multi-link. It's a much wider track, so it gives more stability. And we really feel like it drives, we call it confident and natural, very neutral, and a good yaw response, good straight stability, and just an overall feel of a confident kind of performance car. Not regard to if it's front-wheel drive or rear-wheel drive, just how does it drive, and we feel that it really does the trick.
Okay, and one last question before I let you go. Sure. So we don't have official horsepower figures or the price yet, but can you give us an idea when this car will be available in dealerships for, again, North American customers only?
That's right.
Okay, no Europeans?
They're welcome to come over here and buy one.
Okay, so when can we expect this?
Sure, the vehicle will line off in April 23rd. Prices and fuel economy will be released about that time, and they'll hit the dealerships in May.
All right, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much. Appreciate your time.
Overall, I think the new Toyota Avalon is a great car for somebody who's looking to get into the premium segment of the auto market but doesn't want to shell out so much money on a Lexus. It has the design, the size, and the features in terms of safety, connectivity, and driver assistance, which is really good in this segment, especially in the American market. A couple of things that I see that I could perhaps they could improve upon is, for example, the center console near the gear lever is a little bit fidgety, as well as the center armrest in the back seat requires some kind of a tab to help pull it down. But overall, I think it's an interesting car, and hopefully one day I will get to drive it.